Hi Susie, here's your concertina, all done I hope, and sounding very nice. It's not loud, but it's got a very sweet tone. Concertina reeds will stick, particularly brass reeds, which are a bit more temperamental, and so it's a good thing to know how to unstick a reed when it stops speaking. Only two tools you need. A scalpel or craft knife type thing, clean one, and some little so-called jeweler's screwdrivers like these. I don't know if you can see them. There's 6 of them in this pack, ex-eBay, etc. I think this sort, the biggest that usually comes in these sets, is ideal for concertina end bolts. Because it's very slim, you won't do the bolts up too tight. Okay, so that's, with a bit of luck, the only one that we're going to need. But the smaller ones are very good for some of the other screws, which won't need to be undone in order to just check a reed. So, one thing to say about opening concertinas, by and large they shouldn't be left open. An hour or two is fine, but don't leave the ends unscrewed overnight. We've got lots of thin pieces of wood which can warp given a chance, so it's always best to do this at a time when one can be sure of getting the concertina back together again. So let's assume that we've got a note that's not working. Let's assume it's, say, 3rd button up in this row here on the left hand end of the concertina. Okay, it's speaking on both the press and the draw of the bellows, but we'll assume that one of those isn't working. Okay, so when you take, so the end of the concertina is held on by these 6 little bolts. When you take those out, it's important that they go back into the same hole where they came from. I've got a little block of wood that I put them in. One could just put them down carefully in a position where you know where they came from. So we'll undo all. I just tend to loosen them all a little bit to start with. Loosen all around the 6 bolts just to take the pressure off, and then take them out properly. The other thing about this sort of screwdriver is you can keep the blade in the right place with one hand whilst turning the bolt with the other. So we take it out. I'm putting it in my little block of wood to keep it in the right place. When we've got all 6 bolts out, put the screwdriver down, don't need that for a minute, and the end will just lift off, and there are all the reeds in the reed pan. You'll notice that I have the concertina on my knee with the thumb strap here, the finger rest here, the buttons all pointing away from me. Notice that there's a little cross, you may be able to see it, marked here on both the bellows and on the reed pan, and that tells you where the reed pan has to be put back. Right, we're assuming that this button here is the note that's not speaking, so if we turn over, definitely won't see this on the camera, but I can see that when I press that button, this pad is the one that's moving. When I press the button, I can see the pad opening on the far side of the hole to let the air through. So I can then count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Check it, that's the one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So those are my reeds that I'm concerned with on this side of the concertina. Right, don't need that for the moment. Put that down somewhere where it won't get dusty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then if you just put your finger in the hole, and you can just gently ease the reed pan out. So there it is, and it's got reeds on both sides, and there's probably no terribly easy way of remembering, but the reeds on the outside are the ones that speak when you open the bellows. The ones on the inside are the ones that speak when you close the bellows. You could say, when you open the bellows, air is sucked in from outside, so it's the outside reeds that speak. When you squeeze the bellows, air is squeezed out from inside, so it's the inside reeds that speak. But anyway, so there's my reed pan, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the reeds I'm concerned with. Well, I'll do the inside reed first, and they just go into little slots, and they just slide out. Put that one down, and generally, you may often see if a reed's not speaking, there will be a little bit of dust, or something that's between the reed. Here's the actual little brass tongue that does the speaking. And very often all you need to do is just, with a craft knife or scalpel, just slide it gently under the tip of the reed and just ping. Don't know if that little noise is audible. And you can have a look underneath, check that you can't see anything. Then slide the reed back into its slot quite firmly. If a reed is loose in its slot, that can stop it speaking, because the reed just jiggles about and air goes around the edge of it and it doesn't work properly. One can just put a tiny strip of paper down the side of the slot, then slide the reed in. What I do is I cut the piece of paper too long, put it in the side of the slot, slide the reed in. Once the reed's firmly in place, tear the end of the paper off. So that's the inside reed, the one that speaks when the bellows are being closed. Just sit this back in place, count again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The inside reeds can be a little bit more tricky to get out. By and large, yeah, this one's a bit stiff. You can just give them a squeeze. A little piece of wood or something like that is good for just squeezing them out. I'm losing my count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can just press a little piece of wood against it. If you do, obviously you don't want the reed to go shooting across the room, but bear in mind the end of the reed on this end has been snipped off, and it can be very sharp. So be a bit careful with that. So there's the reed out, the same. Ping it with the scalpel or the craft knife. Look for any bits of dust. And just the one more thing I will say about reeds whilst this is out. By and large, you want to be able to, you get your knife, rest it on there, and it should just slide under the reed. I don't know if you can see that, it should just go slide under like that. If, when you bring the blade in, it doesn't go under the reed may be too far into its slot. If you get that, I'd say give me a call. Right, we'll pop this little chap back into its slot. Just slides in, it's a nice firm fit. Okay, the cross on the reed pan, cross on the bellows, put them together, pops back into place. Then it's always easy to remember where the end goes back on, because you can just look at the other end. So there's one strap screw. So this strap screw is going to go in the same place. Sit the end on, and the screws go back. If you are actually doing a repair, what you can do is just put in alternate screws. So what we could do is put in that screw, that screw, just putting them in, don't tighten them up until all three are in, just pop them in and bring them up so they're almost there. Then just give them a little little gentle tighten, and then you can check that things are working without, just in case it's not, and you have to repeat the procedure, you haven't put all 6 screws back in. Then the other 3 can go back in. Assembly is the reverse of disassembly, as they used to say in the Haynes car manuals. And as I say, this sort of screwdriver, you won't over tighten the bolts, but it's just gently sort of snugging them into place. There we are. And hopefully all notes playing again.